Captain Lee Daho stared at the scanner readings for the third time. The numbers did not change. Something was down there on the planet's surface, and it was giving off energy signals unlike anything he had seen before. "Dr. Park, come look at this," he called to his science officer. The research vessel New Sol had been traveling through the Kepler 442 system for 2 weeks, mapping planets and taking mineral samples. It was boring work, but it paid well, and the Galactic Federation needed the data. Dr. Park Ji-woo walked over to the captain's chair, wiping her hands on a dirty cloth. She had been working in the lab again, testing rock samples from the last 3 planets they had visited. "What do you have, Captain?" Lee pointed at the screen. "Look at these energy readings. That planet down there is putting out some kind of signal. It's weak, but it's there, and it's not natural." Park looked at the data and frowned. "That's strange. According to our star charts, this system is supposed to be empty. No intelligent life, no colonies, nothing." "That's what I thought too," Lee said. "But these readings don't lie. There's something artificial down there, maybe old ruins or abandoned technology." Park felt excited. Finding alien ruins would be the discovery of her career. Most of the galaxy had been mapped already, and finding something new was rare. "We should go down and take a look," Lee nodded. "Get your team ready. We'll take the shuttle down in 2 hours." The planet looked normal from space. It was mostly green and blue, with white clouds covering about half the surface. It looked a lot like Earth, actually. The energy signal was coming from a large continent near the equator. Lee piloted the shuttle down through the atmosphere while Park and her 2 assistants checked their equipment. The landing site was in a valley between 2 mountain ranges. As they got closer, they could see strange structures rising from the ground. "Those look like monuments," Park said, pressing her face against the window. "Look at the size of them. They must be hundreds of meters tall." The monuments were made of black stone and carved into complex shapes. Some looked like spirals reaching up into the sky. Others were flat with symbols carved deep into their surfaces. They were arranged in perfect circles around a central area. Lee set the shuttle down about 1 kilometer away from the monuments. "Remember, we're just here to observe and take samples. Don't touch anything that looks important." Park and her team put on their environment suits and gathered their scanning equipment. The planet's air was breathable for humans, but they followed safety rules anyway. They walked toward the monuments, taking readings as they went. "The energy is definitely coming from these structures," Park said, looking at her scanner. "The stone contains some kind of crystal that's still active after who knows how many years." Her assistant, a young man named Kim Woo-jin, was taking pictures of the symbols carved into the monuments. "Dr. Park, you should see this. These symbols are everywhere. They're carved really deep, like whoever made them wanted them to last forever." Park walked over to examine the symbols. They were beautiful and complex, unlike anything in the Federation databases. "This is incredible. We might be looking at a completely unknown civilization." While Park studied the symbols, her other assistant, Lee Min-jung, was taking mineral samples from the base of one of the monuments. She used a small drill to extract core samples from the black stone. The drill made a loud, whining noise as it worked. "The stone is incredibly hard," Min-jung called out. "This drill is designed for the toughest materials, but it's barely making a dent." "Keep trying," Park said. "We need samples to analyze the crystal structure." It took Min-jung almost an hour to get a decent sample. When she finally succeeded, a small piece of the monument's base broke away. The piece was about the size of her fist and contained several of the glowing crystals. "Got it," she said, holding up the sample. "This should be enough for analysis." Park was excited. This discovery would make them famous throughout the galaxy. She could already imagine presenting her findings to the Federation Science Council. They spent the next few hours taking more pictures and measurements. The monuments covered an area of several square kilometers, and each one was unique. Some had chambers inside that they could explore. Others were solid stone with symbols covering every surface. As they worked, none of them noticed the ships approaching from orbit. The first sign of trouble came when Captain Lee's communicator crackled to life. "Captain, we have a problem up." "Here," came the voice of his pilot, Lieutenant Cho Sang-woo. "3 large ships just dropped out of hyperspace. They're heading straight for us." Lee felt his stomach drop. "What kind of ships?" "Unknown design. They're big, Captain. Much bigger than us. And they're armed." Park looked up from her work, fear showing on her face. "Could they be Federation ships?" "Federation ships would have identified themselves by—" "Now," Lee said grimly. "Pack up everything. We need to get back to the shuttle." But it was too late. The alien ships had already reached the planet's surface. 3 massive vessels, each one the size of a city block, descended from the sky with a thunderous roar. They landed in a triangle formation around the human shuttle, blocking any escape route. The ships were unlike anything the humans had ever seen. They were dark gray with sharp angles and weapon ports visible along their hulls. Strange symbols were painted on their sides in bright red. "Those symbols," Park whispered. "They match the ones on the monuments." A hatch opened on the nearest alien ship, and figures began emerging. They were tall and thin with pale blue skin and 4 arms. Their heads were elongated, and their eyes were completely black. They wore dark armor and carried weapons that crackled with energy. The leader of the aliens approached the human group. When he spoke, his words came through their universal translators as cold and angry. "Defilers! You dare to desecrate the sacred tombs of our ancestors? You have committed an act of war against the Velkari Empire." Lee stepped forward, raising his hands peacefully. "Wait, please. There's been a misunderstanding. We didn't know. This place was sacred. We're just scientists taking samples." The alien leader's black eyes fixed on the broken piece of monument that Min Jung was still holding. His expression grew even angrier. "You destroy our most holy sites and claim ignorance? Your species will pay for this insult with their lives. The pathetic humans have just declared war on the most powerful empire in the galaxy." Park tried to explain. "We didn't mean any harm. We can put everything back. We can fix what we damaged." But the alien leader was not listening. He gestured to his soldiers, who surrounded the humans with their weapons raised. "You will come with us," the leader said. "Your government will learn what happens to those who insult the Velkari Empire. This day will be remembered as the day humanity signed their own death warrant." As the humans were marched toward the alien ship, Lee couldn't help but think that this was a very bad day to be an explorer. He hoped that somehow the people back home would be able to sort this mess out before it got any worse. He had no idea that things were about to get much, much worse. The emergency meeting room in Earth's Defense Headquarters was filled with worried faces. Admiral Kim So-young sat at the head of the long table, reading the message that had arrived just hours ago. Around her, the top military leaders of humanity waited for her to speak. "The Velkari Empire has officially declared war on all human colonies and territories," she said finally. "They claim we desecrated their sacred burial grounds and committed an act of war against their people." General Yoon Tae-jin, Earth's supreme military commander, frowned deeply. "Over a misunderstanding? Captain Lee's team didn't even know those monuments were important. It doesn't matter what we knew or didn't know, said Dr. Shin Hya-jin, the military's top expert on alien psychology. According to our files, the Velkari are a warrior culture. They believe that any insult to their ancestors must be answered with blood. Ambassador Choi Min-ho, who had rushed back from the Federation capital, looked tired and frustrated. I tried to speak with their representatives, but they won't listen. They say talking time is over. They want to make an example of humanity to show the galaxy that no one disrespects the Velkari Empire. Captain Kang Jun-seo, one of their best pilots, raised his hand. What exactly are we dealing with here? How big is their military? Dr. Shin opened her datapad and read from her notes. The Velkari Empire controls 23 star systems. They have over 2,000 warships, ranging from small patrol boats to massive dreadnoughts. Their technology is advanced, especially their plasma weapons and energy shields. The room fell silent. Everyone knew that humanity had fewer than 200 ships, and most of those were designed for exploration and research, not fighting. There's more, Dr. Shin continued. Intelligence reports say they're mobilizing their entire fleet. They plan to attack our outer colonies first, then work their way toward Earth. They want to eliminate every human in the galaxy. Admiral Kim felt a cold anger building inside her. They want to commit genocide because of an accident? From their point of view, it wasn't an accident, Ambassador Choi said. In Velkari culture, ignorance is not an excuse. They believe that any species advanced enough for space travel should know better than to disturb burial sites. General Yoon stood up and walked to the large star map on the wall. How long do we have before they reach our colonies? Captain Kang consulted his own datapad. My scouts report that their fleet is already moving. At their current speed, they'll reach New Busan Colony in about 6 weeks. New Busan has 300,000 people, Admiral Kim said quietly. Mostly families and researchers. Dr. Shin looked grim. Based on Velkari history, they won't take prisoners. When they make an example of someone, they don't leave survivors. The room erupted in angry voices. Some demanded immediate evacuation of the colonies. Others wanted to try diplomatic solutions. A few suggested surrendering completely to save lives. General Yoon raised his hand for silence. What does the Galactic Federation say about this? Ambassador Choi's expression became bitter. They're treating it like a minor border dispute. Most species think this will be over in a few days. Some are actually placing bets on how quickly the Velkari will crush us. They don't care that an entire species might be wiped out? Captain Kang asked in disbelief. Humanity joined the Federation only 50 years ago, Ambassador Choi explained. Most species still see us as primitive newcomers. They think we need to learn our place in the galactic order. Admiral Kim slammed her fist on the table. Our place? Our place is wherever we choose to make it. General Yoon turned from the star map with a strange expression on his face. Maybe it's time to show the galaxy exactly what our place is. Dr. Shin looked confused. General, we can't fight the Velkari Empire with exploration ships and research vessels. General Yoon smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant smile. Who said anything about exploration ships and research vessels? He walked to his secure terminal and entered a long password. After a moment, new information appeared on the main screen. The room fell silent as everyone read the data. Protocol 7? Admiral Kim asked. I've never heard of Protocol 7. That's because you didn't have clearance, General Yoon said. Protocol 7 has been in effect since the day we joined the Galactic Federation. Every human ship in space has been operating under false designations. Captain Kang studied the new data with growing amazement. These numbers can't be right. This says we have over 1,500 ships. Those numbers are correct, General Yoon confirmed. What do you think we've been doing for the last 50 years? We've been preparing for exactly this situation. Dr. Shin was reading through technical specifications. These weapon systems, I've never seen anything like them. Kinetic projectiles, stealth technology, why don't other species use these? Because they've forgotten how to fight real wars, General Yoon explained. The galaxy has been at peace for 800 years. Most species fight with honor codes and formal battle rules. They've become soft. Admiral Kim was beginning to understand. But humans haven't become soft. Humans have been fighting wars for 10,000 years, General Yoon said. We know things about conflict that the rest of the galaxy has forgotten. We know that the only rule in war is to win. Captain Kang was looking at ship specifications that made his pilot's heart race. These fighters, they're designed for hit-and-run tactics, stealth attacks, nothing like the formal battle lines other species use. Exactly, General Yoon said. While the Velkari expect us to meet them in honorable combat, ship to ship, we'll be hunting them like prey. Dr. Shin looked worried. General, what you're describing, it's not how civilized species fight wars. General Yoon's expression became deadly serious. Dr. Shin, the Velkari Empire just declared their intention to commit genocide against our entire species. They want to kill every human man, woman, and child in the galaxy. Do you really think this is the time to worry about being civilized? Ambassador, Choi spoke up. The galaxy will be watching how we respond. If we fight dirty, it could affect our standing in the Federation. Let them watch, Admiral Kim said, her voice hard as steel. Maybe it's time the galaxy learned something about humanity that we've been keeping secret. General Yoon nodded. For 50 years, we've pretended to be peaceful explorers and researchers. We've let other species think we're harmless. But humans didn't reach the top of Earth's food chain by being harmless. Captain Kang was studying attack patterns on his datapad. When do we start? The Velkari fleet is 6 weeks out from New Busan, General Yoon said. That gives us time to position our forces, but we're not going to wait for them to attack our colonies. What do you mean? Dr. Shin asked. General Yoon turned back to the star map. Captain Kang, how long would it take a small strike force to reach Velkari space? Captain Kang calculated quickly. Using the new stealth ships? About 2 weeks. Good. While they're traveling to attack our colonies, we'll visit theirs. Let's see how they like it when someone destroys their sacred places. Admiral Kim felt a fierce satisfaction. You want to hit them where they live. I want to teach them that declaring war on humanity was the biggest mistake their empire ever made, General Yoon said. By the time we're done with them, the Velkari will regret the day they ever heard the word human. Dr. Shin still looked concerned. General, what you're proposing could change everything. The galaxy will never see humanity the same way again. General Yoon's smile was cold and predatory. Good. It's time they saw us as we really are. As the meeting broke up and the military leaders hurried to their posts, none of them noticed that their conversation was being monitored by Federation intelligence networks. Across the galaxy, other species were about to learn that humanity had been hiding something from them for 50 years. Something dangerous. The destruction of New Busan colony came without warning. The Velkari fleet arrived in the system and immediately began bombing the planet's surface. They didn't send a surrender demand or try to communicate. They simply started killing Captain Kang Jun-seo watched the attack from his hidden position at the edge of the system. His stealth ship was invisible to Velkari sensors, but he could see everything that was happening. 300,000 people died in the first hour of the bombardment. "This is Captain Kang to Fleet Command," he said into his communicator. "New Busan is gone. The Velkari are targeting civilian areas. No military objectives. They're just killing everyone." Back on Earth, General Yoon Tae-jin received the report in his command center. Around him, dozens of officers watched the data coming in from the battle zone. The mood in the room was dark and angry. "Confirmed civilian casualties?" asked Admiral Kim So-young. "All of them," Kang replied over the comm. "The entire colony is gone. They're not taking prisoners or trying to occupy the planet. They're just destroying everything." Engineer Lim Da-eun, the designer of humanity's secret weapons, looked up from her control station. "General, we have 50 ships in position around Velkari space. They're waiting for your orders." General Yoon stared at the tactical display for a long moment. The Velkari had just crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. They had shown the galaxy that they were willing to commit genocide for the sake of their pride. "Activate Protocol 7, he said quietly. "All ships, all systems. It's time." Across human space, ships that had been pretending to be research vessels and cargo haulers suddenly changed. Hidden weapon ports opened. Stealth systems came online. Fake identification codes were replaced with military designations. The new Seoul, Captain Lee's research ship, was still in Velkari custody, but other ships like her were revealing their true nature. What the galaxy had thought was a small fleet of exploration vessels was actually the most advanced military force in known space. Colonel Bae Sung-min commanded the first strike team. His ship, officially registered as a mining vessel, was actually a stealth assault cruiser loaded with weapons that no other species had ever seen. "Target is the Velkari orbital station at Kepler 138, he told his crew. "Intelligence says it's their main supply depot for the fleet that just destroyed New Busan. We're going to show them what happens when you murder human civilians." His ship approached the Velkari station using technology that made it invisible to their sensors. The Velkari had never encountered true stealth systems before. Their energy-based detection methods couldn't track something designed to absorb and deflect their scanning beams. Colonel Bae's weapons were different, too. Instead of the energy blasts that most galactic species used, his ship fired solid projectiles at incredible speeds. The kinetic impact was devastating against shields designed to deflect energy weapons. The first Velkari knew of the attack was when their orbital station exploded. "What hit us?" screamed the station commander into his communicator. "There's nothing on sensors." But there was no time for answers. Colonel Bae's ship had already moved on to its next target, leaving the burning wreckage of the station behind. Similar attacks were happening throughout Velkari space. Human ships appeared from nowhere, destroyed military targets, and vanished, before the Velkari could respond. It was a type of warfare that the galaxy hadn't seen in centuries. Major Han Kai-tae was coordinating intelligence operations from a hidden base near Velkari space. His team had been gathering information about Velkari military positions for years, pretending to be traders and tourists. "Strike Team 3, your target is the ammunition depot on Velkari Prime," he said into his communicator. "Intelligence confirms it's lightly guarded. The Velkari never expected anyone to attack their home system." "Copy that, Major," came the reply. "We're moving in now." The attack on the Velkari homeworld shocked the entire galaxy. No one had ever dared to attack the capital system of a major empire. But human ships slipped past the planet's defenses, like ghosts, and destroyed key military installations with surgical precision. Dr. Shin Hye-jin was monitoring galactic communications from her position at Federation headquarters. Other species were sending frantic messages to each other, trying to understand what was happening. "The humans are fighting like nothing we've ever seen," reported a Federation observer. "They don't follow any recognized rules of engagement. They attack without warning, target supply lines instead of military fleets, and disappear before anyone can counterattack." "It's barbaric," complained a diplomatic representative. "Civilized species don't fight this way." Dr. Shin smiled grimly. The galaxy was finally seeing humanity's true nature, and they didn't like what they saw. The Velkari Empire was in chaos. Their military commanders couldn't understand how a primitive species with only 200 ships was causing so much damage. They didn't know that humanity actually had 1,500 ships, all designed for the kind of warfare that the galaxy had forgotten. "How are they doing this?" demanded Velkari Admiral Zethkar at an emergency military meeting. "Our sensors show nothing, but our bases keep exploding." "They're using some kind of stealth technology," replied his intelligence officer. "Our energy-based sensors can't detect their ships." "Then increase patrols. Send more ships. Sir, we've already sent everything available. But they're not attacking our patrols. They're attacking our supply lines, our repair facilities, our communication stations. They're not trying to fight our military directly." Admiral Zethkar was confused. "What kind of warfare is this?" "It's called asymmetric warfare," said a Velkari scientist who had been studying human history. "It's a strategy used by smaller forces against larger ones. Instead of meeting superior numbers head-on, they target infrastructure and support systems. That's not how wars are supposed to be fought. Sir, with respect, the humans don't seem to care how wars are supposed to be fought." Back on Earth, Engineer Lim was briefing the command staff on humanity's technological advantages. While other species focused on energy weapons and shield technology, we developed kinetic weapons and stealth systems. Their shields are useless against solid projectiles moving at high speed. "Why didn't they develop similar weapons?" asked Admiral Kim. "Because they've been at peace for too long," Lim explained. "Energy weapons are cleaner, more precise, perfect for formal duels and honor combat. But kinetic weapons are designed for one thing: maximum destruction." General Yoon was studying casualty reports from the ongoing attacks. "What about our losses?" "Minimal," reported Colonel Bay. "We've lost 3 ships total. The Velkari have lost over 200 installations and supply ships. They can't fight what they can't see." "And their response?" "Confusion and panic," said Major Han. "They're pulling ships back from their advance fleets to defend their home systems. The force heading toward our next colony has been reduced by 60%. Dr. Shin was monitoring psychological profiles of Velkari leadership. "They're scared. They've never faced an enemy that fights like this. In their entire military history, warfare has always been formal and predictable. They don't know how to respond to guerrilla tactics." Admiral Kim looked satisfied. "Good. Fear makes people make mistakes." General Yoon stood up and addressed the room. "Phase 1 is complete. We've shown them that declaring war on humanity was a mistake. Now we move to Phase 2. "What's Phase 2? asked Captain Kang. General Yoon's expression was cold and determined. "Phase 2 is when we teach them what happens to species that try to commit genocide against humans. We're going to hunt them down, one ship at a time, until they surrender unconditionally. And if they don't surrender, then we keep hunting until there's nothing left to hunt. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the implications. Humanity had hidden its true nature for 50 years, but now the mask was coming off. The galaxy was about to learn that they had been sharing space with apex predators all along. Fleet Admiral O. Dong-wook commanded the largest secret in human space. While the galaxy believed humanity possessed only 200 exploration ships, he controlled a hidden fleet of over 1,000 military vessels. These ships had been built in secret shipyards throughout human territory, disguised as mining operations and research stations. The Velkari have committed their entire military to this war, he told his fleet commanders during a secure briefing. 3,500 ships and 2 million soldiers. They think they can overwhelm us with numbers. Captain No Yunji, a specialist in what humans called submarine warfare, studied the tactical displays. They're moving in standard formation. Battle groups with escorts, supply lines clearly marked. They're fighting like this is still the old galaxy. That's their mistake, Admiral O said. They expect us to meet them in open battle, ship against ship, following the traditional rules of galactic warfare. Instead, we're going to hunt them. The concept of hunting in space warfare was uniquely human. Other species had evolved from prey animals or herd creatures. They fought in groups with honor and formal rules. Humans had evolved from persistence hunters who tracked their prey for days or weeks until it collapsed from exhaustion. Dr. Ryu Jae Sung, the military's expert on psychological warfare, activated his communication systems. Beginning Phase 2. Psychological operations, he announced. It's time to show the galaxy what human warfare really looks like. His first broadcast went out on all Velkari military frequencies. It showed footage from Earth's history, the siege of Stalingrad, where humans fought for months in a destroyed city, guerrilla fighters in Vietnam who disappeared into jungles and struck without warning, the siege of Sarajevo, where humans survived years of bombardment and starvation. The Velkari commanders who watched these videos were horrified. They had never seen warfare like this. In their culture, battles were formal affairs with clear rules and quick conclusions. The idea of fighting for years or continuing to resist after defeat was completely alien to them. What kind of species fights like this? Asked Velkari Admiral Zethkar, after watching footage of human soldiers continuing to fight even when badly wounded. According to our xenobiologists, humans evolved from persistence hunters, replied his science officer. They're designed by evolution to never give up. They kept chasing prey until it died of exhaustion. Are you saying they'll do the same to us? Sir, I think that's exactly what they're doing. The first real demonstration of human hunting tactics came when Captain Kang's squadron targeted the Velkari Admiral Morthek's flagship. Instead of attacking directly, they began following the ship through hyperspace, appearing at random intervals to attack escort vessels. "Contact off the starboard side!" screamed the flagship's sensor operator. 3 human ships firing kinetic weapons. The human ships destroyed 2 Velkari escorts and vanished before the flagship could respond. Admiral Morthek ordered pursuit, but the human ships had disappeared completely. "Where did they go?" Morthek demanded. "Unknown, sir. They just vanished." 6 hours later, the human ships appeared again, this time attacking the flagship's port side. They destroyed another escort and a supply ship before disappearing again. "This is impossible," Morthek shouted. "How are they tracking us through hyperspace?" What he didn't know was that Captain Kang's ships were using a hunting technique as old as humanity itself. They weren't trying to destroy the flagship immediately. They were wearing it down, attacking its support systems, cutting off its supply lines and preventing its crew from resting. Operation Persistence Hunt is working perfectly, Captain Kang reported to Fleet Command. The Valkyrie flagship has been running for 2 weeks. Their crew is exhausted, their supplies are low, and their escort fleet is down to 30% strength. Any sign they're ready to surrender? Asked General Yoon. Not yet, but they're getting desperate. Their communications are becoming increasingly panicked. This pattern was repeated throughout Valkyrie space. Human ships would lock onto a target and pursue it relentlessly, attacking at random intervals, never allowing the crew to rest or resupply properly. It was psychological torture on a massive scale. The Valkyrie Empire had never encountered anything like it. Their military doctrine was based on quick, decisive battles. The idea of prolonged harassment and pursuit was not something they had prepared. For Dr. Ryu's psychological warfare broadcasts were making things worse. He had started transmitting recordings of human military history directly to Valkyrie ships. The footage showed human soldiers who continued fighting even when surrounded, outnumbered, and facing certain death. Look at this footage from the Battle of Thermopylae, he broadcast to the Valkyrie fleet. 300 humans held off an army of thousands for days. They fought until the last man was dead. This is what you're fighting against. This is what humans do when someone threatens our species. The effect on Valkyrie morale was devastating. They began to understand that they weren't fighting a normal species. They were fighting predators who would never stop, never surrender, and never give up. Admiral Morthek's flagship finally surrendered after 6 months of constant harassment. His crew was suffering from severe exhaustion and stress. 3 times they had tried to make emergency hyperspace jumps to escape, and 3 times the human ships had followed them. "We surrender!" Morthek broadcast on all frequencies. "Please, we surrender! Stop hunting us!" But Captain Kang didn't accept the surrender immediately. "Why should we stop?" he replied. "You came to our space to commit genocide. You destroyed New Busan colony and killed 300,000 civilians. Why should we show you mercy?" "Please," Morthek begged. "My crew is dying from exhaustion. We haven't slept properly in months. This isn't warfare. It's torture." "Now, you know how it feels to be prey," Captain Kang said coldly. "Welcome to human warfare." The news of Morthek's surrender spread throughout the galaxy like wildfire. Other species were shocked that a Valkyrie admiral had begged for mercy. The Valkyrie were known as proud warriors who preferred death to dishonor. But they had never been hunted before. Captain No's submarine tactics were equally effective. Her ships would hide in asteroid fields or nebulae, completely invisible to Valkyrie sensors. When enemy ships passed by, she would attack their rear guard and disappear before the main fleet could respond. "It's like fighting ghosts," complained one Valkyrie ship captain. "They appear from nowhere, destroy our ships, and vanish. How do you fight an enemy you can't see?" The answer was that you couldn't fight them. Human stealth technology was generations ahead of anything the galaxy had seen. While other species had focused on energy weapons and shields, humans had perfected the art of not being detected in the first place. Engineer Lim's weapons were proving devastatingly effective. Valkyrie shields, designed to deflect energy blasts, were useless against solid projectiles fired at relativistic speeds. A single human kinetic round could punch through 3 layers of Valkyrie armor. "Their defensive systems are completely obsolete," she reported to General Yoon. "They've been fighting with the same technology for centuries. They never adapted because they never had to. And our losses, still minimal. We've lost 12 ships total. The Valkyrie have lost over 800 vessels and half their supply. Infrastructure. The Galactic Federation was watching the war with growing alarm. What had started as entertainment, watching a minor species get crushed by a major empire, had turned into something terrifying. Humanity was systematically dismantling one of the galaxy's most powerful military forces. "How is this possible?" asked the Federation Council leader. "The Velkari Empire has been a dominant military power for 500 years. Because they've been fighting other civilized species," explained Dr. Shin during a council session. "Species that follow rules, fight honorably, and accept defeat gracefully. They've never fought apex predators before." "Are you saying humans are apex predators?" "I'm saying humans are the only species in the galaxy that evolved from hunters. Every other species evolved from prey animals, herd creatures, or peaceful gatherers. You've been living in a galaxy where everyone plays by the same rules. Humans don't play by your rules." The implications of this statement were staggering. If humans were truly apex predators, then every assumption about galactic power balance was wrong. The species that everyone had dismissed as primitive newcomers might actually be the most dangerous force in the galaxy. As the war continued, one thing became clear. The Velkari Empire was losing badly. Their proud military was being picked apart piece by an enemy that fought like nothing they had ever encountered, and humanity was just getting started. 18 months after the war began, the mighty Velkari Empire was reduced to defending only their homeworld. Admiral Ko Myung-soo, the architect of humanity's final campaign, watched from his flagship as the last Velkari fleet gathered around their home planet like wounded animals seeking shelter. "Sir, we have confirmed positions on all remaining Velkari military assets," reported his intelligence officer. 200 ships down from their original 3,500. Most are damaged and running low on supplies. Admiral Ko nodded grimly. The Velkari had learned, too late, what it meant to fight humanity. Their proud empire, which had controlled 23 star systems for centuries, now held only one. Every other world had been cut off, their military installations destroyed by invisible human ships that struck without warning. "What are our orders, Admiral?" asked Captain No, whose submarine tactics had destroyed dozens of Velkari supply convoys. "We don't destroy their homeworld," Ko said firmly. "That would make us no better than them. Instead, we're going to do something worse. We're going to civilize them." The concept of civilizing the Velkari was uniquely human. Other species would either destroy their enemies completely or accept their surrender and move on. Humans understood that true victory meant changing your enemy so completely that they could never threaten you again. Dr. Seo Wan-young, humanity's new chief diplomat, had spent months studying Velkari psychology and culture. Her plan for the Empire's future was both merciful and terrifying. "The Velkari believe strength is everything," she explained to the fleet commanders. "Their entire society is built around military power and conquest. We're going to change that. We're going to turn them into something they've never been before. A peaceful species." President Moon Byung-ho had been preparing for this moment since the war began. His speech to the Galactic Federation would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy forever. As he stood before the council chambers, representatives from 247 species watched him with a mixture of fear and fascination. "Members of the Galactic Federation," he began, his voice calm and measured. 18 months ago, the Velkari Empire declared war on humanity because of a misunderstanding. They refused to listen to our explanations. They chose to respond with genocide. The council chamber was completely silent. Everyone knew what was coming next. We tried to resolve this peacefully, President Moon continued. We sent diplomats. We offered to make repairs to their damaged monuments. We apologized for the cultural misunderstanding. The Velkari response was to destroy one of our colonies and murder 300,000 civilians. Ambassador Choi, now sitting at the head of the Federation Council table, watched the faces of other species representatives. They couldn't meet his eyes. For 50 years, humanity has been a peaceful member of this Federation, President Moon said. We followed your rules. We accepted our place as newcomers. We pretended to be harmless explorers and researchers. We did this because we hoped we could live peacefully among you. He paused, letting his words sink in. The Velkari Empire forced us to stop pretending. The massive display screens around the council chamber lit up with footage from the war. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as human ships appeared from nowhere to destroy Velkari installations. They saw the systematic dismantling of one of the galaxy's most powerful militaries by a species everyone had dismissed as primitive. This is what humans are capable of when you threaten our species, President Moon said. This is what we've been hiding from you for 50 years. We are not prey animals. We are not herd creatures. We are apex predators who spent 10,000 years fighting our way to the top of our planet's food chain. Representative after representative looked uncomfortable as the truth sank in. Humanity had been letting them think they were superior. The species they had been patronizing and dismissing was actually the most dangerous force in the galaxy. The war is over, President Moon announced. The Velkari Empire has surrendered unconditionally. But this war has taught us something important about our place in the galaxy. He gestured to Ambassador Choi, who stood and activated another display, showing the current galactic power structure. For 800 years, this Federation has maintained peace through mutual cooperation and understanding, President Moon said. That era is now over. From this day forward, peace will be maintained by human oversight. The implications hit the Council like a physical blow. Humanity wasn't just announcing victory over the Velkari. They were announcing their intention to become the galaxy's dominant species. Any species that threatens human civilians or colonies will face the same fate as the Velkari Empire, President Moon continued. Not destruction, that would be wasteful, but reorganization under human supervision until they learn to behave in a civilized manner. Dr. Seo stepped forward to explain humanity's new doctrine. The Velkari will not be destroyed or enslaved. They will be guided. Their society will be restructured to focus on art, science, and philosophy instead of conquest. Their military will be disbanded and replaced with a police force adequate for maintaining order but incapable of external aggression. You're talking about cultural genocide, protested a representative from the Centauri Republic. We're talking about evolution, Dr. Seo replied calmly. The Velkari had a choice between growing beyond their violent nature or facing extinction. We're giving them the opportunity to become something better than they were. And if other species refuse to accept human oversight? Asked another representative. President Moon's expression became cold and predatory. Then they'll discover why. The Velkari chose to surrender rather than continue fighting. The demonstration that followed was subtle but unmistakable. Human ships throughout the galaxy simultaneously revealed their true positions and capabilities. What the Federation had thought was a small fleet of exploration vessels was actually a massive military force distributed throughout known space. We have been watching all of you for 50 years, President Moon said. We know the location of every military installation, every government building, every population center in Federation space. We chose to remain hidden and peaceful. That choice is now revoked. The council chamber erupted in frightened voices, but Ambassador Choi raised his hand for silence. "This is not a threat," he said firmly. "This is a promise. Humanity will maintain galactic peace. Species that cooperate and behave peacefully will be left alone to govern themselves as they always have. Species that choose aggression and violence will be educated." The final part of humanity's announcement was the most shocking. Captain Lee Dae-ho, the man whose accidental discovery had started the war, was released from Velkari custody and brought before the council. Captain Lee and his research team were trying to conduct peaceful scientific research, President Moon said. Their only crime was not understanding Velkari burial customs. For this innocent mistake, the Velkari tried to exterminate our entire species. Captain Lee stepped forward, still showing signs of his 18-month imprisonment, but standing proud and defiant. "I want everyone in this chamber to understand something," he said. "Humans tried to do the right thing. We tried to be peaceful. We tried to follow the rules. And we were repaid with attempted genocide." His voice grew harder. "That will never happen again. If any species threatens humanity in the future, there will be no warnings, no negotiations, no second chances. We will hunt them down and destroy them completely." The final image displayed to the council was footage from the Velkari homeworld. Human forces had occupied key positions throughout their capital city, but there was no violence, no destruction. Instead, human administrators were working with Velkari civilians to establish new schools, hospitals, and research facilities. "This is mercy," President Moon said. "The Velkari tried to commit genocide, and in return, we're giving them the chance to become a better species. They will learn to value life instead of conquest. They will study art instead of warfare. They will explore the universe instead of trying to conquer it." "And if they resist this education?" asked a Federation representative. Dr. CEO smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. "They won't resist. Humans are very good teachers. We have 10,000 years of experience in changing the behavior of dangerous species." As the council session ended and representatives hurried away to contact their home governments, Ambassador Choi remained in his seat at the head of the table. For the first time in 50 years, other species ambassadors approached him with respect instead of condescension. The galaxy had learned something important about humanity. They were not the harmless newcomers everyone had assumed. They were apex predators who had been playing a very long game. The age of human dominance had begun, and it had started not with conquest, but with mercy. The Velkari Empire would survive, but as something entirely new. They would become humanity's first successful project in species rehabilitation, and every other species in the galaxy would remember that the choice between evolution and extinction was always theirs to make. President Moon's final words to the Federation would be remembered for generations. "Congratulations to those species wise enough to choose cooperation, and our sympathies to any species foolish enough to test our patience. You have been warned." The war was over.